everybody. This is Gentoo 303. Gentoo 303 doesn't really like to be picked up that much, but he's a very good bird. He's very good about being a good tour bird. He's a big fan. Let's watch that rear end there. Does anybody know what species this is? Go ahead, shout out. What do you got? Well, it's a Gentoo penguin. Gentoos are easily recognizable. They have that kind of white earmuff. This is probably the most widely dispersed out of all the 17 different species of penguins. So these can live closer to that high Antarctic, which is where the Adelies and the emperors are going to live, and it's going to be more spread out even to that sub-Antarctic. This is the third largest species of penguin, not bird, penguin. Third largest species. So you have the emperors, which are the largest.
Are you getting wet?
Yeah, he just popped out of the water. As soon as he just popped out, and he's nice and insulated. Yep, just shaking off some excess salt. We do look for signs of overheating. You can see the flippers are starting to turn pink, and if he looks like we might, he looks like he's doing okay. And sometimes you just gotta calm him down. Are you okay, buddy?
Do they like to be petted?
This one doesn't have a problem with it. So their peripheral vision's probably not that great. The vision's probably better in the water. So you see when they look at things, they'll kind of leave with one eye and then the other. So if we want, we can start with you guys over here. The best place if you want to touch them right on their back right here. So touch them on the back. They are kind of curious, so sometimes they'll explore like jewelry or things like that. But this bird's pretty good, and it's done quite a few things. So go ahead and we'll start with you guys over here, and I'll just keep talking about penguins. And a lot of times it's better to take pictures from this side over if you want. And you can feel flippers. Very good.
You guys have an emperor penguin out there?
We do. We have.
Oh, they're so magnificent.
We have 30-some emperors. We're one of the only facilities, at least the only facility in the Western Hemisphere that has emperor penguins. I believe there's a facility in Japan that has emperors as well.
Yes.
But yeah, the Gentoos are the third largest species. It's a part of the brush tails. The brush tails are the chin straps, Adelies, and Gentoos. So they have this kind of brush tail right here. These are really widely dispersed, circumpolar.
Take a video.
These don't congregate as much as some of the other birds, like say like rockhoppers and Magellanics that you see. You guys saw the Magellanics outside. So a lot of times when people think of penguins, they think of that really freezing cold, the snow and the ice. Whereas in reality, the penguins are going to be in this tussock grass. They're going to be on a lot of rocky areas. They're going to be in a really wide variety of environments. And this bird, this penguin in particular, is probably going to be in the most widely thing. So you don't want to put your face too close to the penguin because they do have really sharp teeth. This bird's really good, but we never know. Sometimes, somebody could pop in and out of the door and the bird could get frightened. So you do want to make sure you keep your face away from the bird, and touching it right on its back is like you're doing is perfect. Most people say, what did you guys think when you feel the penguin? What is it? Soft. Yeah, a lot of people think it's very soft. Penguins have very dense feather coverage. So their insulation, that's what's really important for them, is having that really, really thick feathers. So if you actually look close at these feathers under here, get your Facebook status. Or your update, you can check in. Yeah, check in. But if you look close at the feathers here, if you see those black feathers, if you look underneath, that's just the tips of the feathers. So you can see how dense that feather coverage is. This bird has about 70 feathers, 70 to 100 feathers per square inch. To put that in comparison, most other birds, like a chicken, is probably going to have about 10 to 15 feathers per square inch. And all the way down, these wings have been adapted to become flippers, and these flippers are covered with feathers. So this is feathers. So it's where other birds, if you compare like a bird's wing, like a person's arm, they have their primaries on the outside here, and they fold their wings in. Penguins, because they're exclusive to the southern hemisphere, and they're circumpolar in the southern hemisphere, their flippers have their wings have become adapted to be flippers. So basically, they're just using their feet to steer like a rudder.
Okay.
Gentoo 303. So this is what, this is a very common question is, what are these for? This is how we identify our birds. So each one of our birds has a file, just like if you go to the doctor, you have a file. That way we know its hatch date, who its parents were, so we can keep track of genetic diversity. So when it hatched, what's happened to it over its history, if it ever had any problems, if it's been
I
healthy
downloaded
its whole
this.
life,
It's supposed to be on the new
you know,
Kit
who it's paired up with, those different types of things. So we keep track of all that.
This is the one that
And it's also,
I
you know,
downloaded a
great
few months
way.
ago. It's actually on the
I
new
can see
Android.
behaviorally, I can say, hey, Gen 303 hasn't come up and said hi to me today. What's
Yeah, the
going
new
on
ones
with this
do.
bird?
The other ones don't.
Is he tired? Is he going through a molt? Is it going into breeding season? Is it picking out a mate? So we look at all those different factors, and then we look also at seasonally what's going on. So this is what we use to identify the species. This is the color. This is a yellow for Gen 2, and then we use a color coding system 303. And it's just a cable tie. It doesn't go through the flipper. It goes around. We do have to monitor them because when they molt, they go through what's called catastrophic molts, which basically means they molt all their feathers at once. Whereas other birds are flighted. They need to be able to still fly, so they'll lose their primaries from the outer in. That way they can still escape from predators. Penguins, they're in the water. They're using those adapted wings that are flippers to swim. They pop out of the water, so they eat a ton. Their appetite does fluctuate. So the penguins are going to eat a ton, and then they pop out of the water, and they go through all those molts. They lose all those feathers at once. Sometimes it can take a few weeks. It's going to take a little bit longer for some of the larger species. And there it is. There it is.
Where's the poop?
It's like all over. That's why I keep all the cabinets closed. So you can see it's pretty good, pretty healthy. So everybody should be good now. Probably not going to go again. But they poop constantly. That's about 90% of their job. What's that?
Always that liquid?
Yeah, so penguins don't like us, we pass urine and fecals. Penguins, it's all mixed together. Birds. So that's birds like if you're pooping by like a seagull or a pigeon, it's got all the white stuff in it. So all the urates and the fecals are all mixed together. So everything comes through the same vent. So the cloaca there, so that's for reproduction, that's for waste. So everything comes through just the one opening. So we'll have the urates and the fecals mixed in together. So that's also too when you get pooped on. So you'll see when it shakes its head like that, you'll get a little bit wet there, shaking off some excess salt, so penguins can process salt water, unlike us. So if we drink salt water, our kidneys fail, we hallucinate, we die. That's what they don't need a freshwater source. They get probably most of their hydration from the fish they eat, though. People always want to know how much fish they eat. Again, it depends on what time of year it is, if they're going into molt, if they're going into their breeding season. So there's a variety of factors we look at, but generally it also depends on the type of fish. So there's herring, there's capelin. So if it's a bigger fish, they're not going to eat as many. They only need 1 or 2 really big fish, whereas they might eat 10 smaller fish. Schooling anchovies is going to be a primary part of this bird's diet. Some of the other birds, like some of the more temperate species. This is also going to have a wide variety of krill, and krill has been much more abundant since whaling days. All the whales, a lot of those are gone, so there's more and more krill. And if we could keep everybody kind of moving over to this side, just because sometimes people are hopping in and out of the store, and I don't want anybody to get old over there.
My turn next. My glorious talent.
I do have a college degree that has nothing to do with animals. But no, yeah, we kind of started at the bottom, and I got my foot in the door. I worked with Fish and Wildlife Services, doing other things, and volunteering with them. I started off in the education department, so I got my foot in the door here, and a lot of people start in education, so I did the penguin tours, the sleepovers, the camps, those types of things. And then everybody starts off, there's that salt, you're shaking off that salt. Everybody starts scrubbing buckets, and then you'll keep scrubbing buckets for the rest of your life if it's really what you want to do. But then you get to, and then as you advance, you get to learn more, and they're generally pretty good at recognizing people who are passionate about it if you're going out of your way. But getting animal experience is really helpful. A lot of our keepers have zoological, they have a zoology degree. A lot of trainers have psychology degrees and behavioral training, so a lot of that's applicable sciences. Here, this is more husbandry and keeping. So working at animal shelters and those kinds of areas really helps. Just getting animal experience.
Keep pressing the
we have
picture
people
button.
who come from all over. We had a supervisor who worked here for years,
definitely.
who didn't even have a college degree, but he was a private breeder. So he worked with other birds, and he worked with a variety of different species, and worked with all the different zoos and keepers all over. So he was just a keeper, and he was bird expert. So animal people are weird in general, and then bird people are even more weird. And then probably like, I think like the reptiles and insect people, they take the entomologists, they take the cake. They're usually bizarre people. But penguins are a little bit more personable, all that.
I thought they were more aggressive than this.
The gentoos, so when they do the research and they go down there and they're in the Antarctic, they say gentoos run, adeles will stand their ground, and the adeles are the smaller birds. They're pretty much the typical, what people think of when they think of a penguin, the tuxedo, the all black with the white Cheerios around their eyes. They'll stand their ground, and they said the chin straps will charge. So the three fancy, the chin straps, they're another penguin.
Rockhoppers, they're pretty.
Rockhoppers are, yes, they can be pretty aggressive. All the penguins can be aggressive, even gentoos. Typically, they're not going out of their way. These are really heavily imprinted. So this was hand raised by us, as you can see. It's very comfortable around people. Not all the birds, and they do have different temperaments. Some are a little more fond of different keepers, so some respond different to different keepers. Probably
how do they respond if they like you then?
If they like you, they'll just be comfortable with you holding them, and like this bird's going to be great for pretty much most anybody. But probably vocalizations they can hear. But yeah, but if this bird had a mate and it's going into breeding season, and I'm trying to put a door, it's probably not going to go for it. It's going to revert back to being a penguin. So they can all be aggressive. They will get territorial in their areas, but it just depends on the situation. But I would say for the most part, and when we go up there, we're going to take a look in the unit in just a second here. Once we go up there, you'll see everybody gets along, but you'll see the little squabbles.
What percent are reared here, and what percent were?
What percent were reared here? We have approximately 350 birds in our collection. When they went out in the 1970s, they collected. It's tough to say because we've moved around birds between all our facilities and other zoos too, all over the world. So all the birds probably for the past 30 years, since 1983 are hatched here. They did do a collection of eggs. So the first collections they did, I want to say they brought back maybe like 100 penguins, and then they collected about, I don't know, 300 or 400 eggs. Like they were going to try to find ones that were rejected to lovers, laid 2 eggs, an alpha and a beta.
To go back in line.
And then they collected a bunch of eggs, and then they hatched out those eggs here at SeaWorld, and that was in the early 80s, late 70s.
So then most of them are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Almost all of them. But some of them come from other facilities, and some of them have come from other facilities where they've been rescued, like in South America, and then they weren't eligible for release, so then they needed to move to again.
You just missed it.
I think it just missed you. So, great question, guys. So I'm going to have Max split you guys up into 2 groups, and if you have any other questions, just save them and ask me up in the unit. I'm going to bring them up.
I thought, drop. But
what's that?
They shoot them.
Yeah, so they want to shoot it up, and
but
when you go down in the sub-Antarctic islands, I mean, that's a big problem facing some of the penguins is, they had 15, 20 feet deep of guano over thousands of years that they would burrow in, and then they harvested that from really good fertilizer and dynamite, things like that. That's a different species.
How do you catch penguins? Like you chase after them, just grab them?
How
how have the people collected them?
How did they go out and collect them originally?
They're like, they travel in herds.
They're usually really curious because they don't have a lot of land predators. I don't know exactly how they
I think they travel in herds, right?
What's that?
That's where penguins do.
They what?
They travel in herds.
In herds? Oh, they're colonial birds.
Yeah.
So all penguins are colonial birds. I mean, you're not talking about thousands. You're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of birds
go catch one
together. And especially young birds, they're very slow. I'm going to take them up. Max is going to split you guys into 2 groups, and we'll keep answering questions and bring you up into the
Bye,
unit.
Gentoo.
And like I said, he doesn't really like to be held as much. Bye, Gentoo 303.
So we have 2 groups of 3, right? 3 and 3. So we can have you guys go first. Not yet.